Digital file is made up of exactly what the time is.
Take us from the very beginning.
So that's, in this case, experience or what I do.
What you did.
What I did at the FBI and what I do now, the rest of it, we can do more administrative. We analyze data, can be audio.
I know you talked a little bit about your professional experience as a analyst in video and in the digital data, but I'd like to try to, I'm not sure that it's everything on substance testimony.
Digital files
more experience in Dade City, so I would characterize it. Take us from the very beginning.
So that's, in this case, experience or what I do. An enhancement. What I did at the FBI and the rest of it, video more scientific. Usual limitation is that digital image is made up audio.
I know you talked a little bit about your
Look at pixels,
professional experience as a
color and grayscale.
in the digital
Contrary to what you see on TV,
but I'd like to try to
when they blow it up and pixelize versus squares, everything moves.
substance testimony.
The digital imagine like all of a sudden it's wonderful, really.
Take us from the very beginning.
500 years from now, the pixel itself is a color. What I did at the FBI as now video more scientific. Usual limitation. A lot of our enhancements that come in, digital, in this case, audio. Attorneys obviously want to say, hey, I want to see pixels. We'd love to do something, but you're limited by the pixels. Contrary to what you see on TV, you're looking at very small size parcels where everything. These pixels you're going to be seeing here might be 1/100th the amount of pixels you might have in a still image you take with a camera. So it's very poor quality. So enhancement is limited with low quality video. But we can lighten dark areas to make them a little more we can sharpen edges to make it so the picture is just plain sharper and try to increase the contrast back to where the actual picture was. In other areas we do voice comparisons. We do gunshot analysis. I've worked on lots of major gunshot cases. And we're looking at how many times the shot was fired. Does it match up that it was fired from one location? Where you might be able to say, that shooter fired these shots, this other shooter fired these shots. You can't actually identify the weapon, contrary to what you see on TV. But you can often say where they're located. So even if they're only 4 feet apart, you might be able to say, okay, this person fired 4 shots and this one was 6. And we know what order, so you might know who fired first, for instance, when you have an audio recording. And so anything really involved with audio and video. So it really gets to be a pretty wide field at times.
And that work is both with the FBI for the years that you worked at the FBI, including your supervisory positions, as well as your private practice today?
Yeah, the only difference at the FBI, we were mostly just getting analog video, because the consumer world had not gone over to digital. So the only digital we had was in the lab where we would make a copy, or we got something professional, which was kind of rare. So it was more of an analog world.
In your career, can you tell the court approximately how many cases have you worked on analyzing either audio or video?
I've worked on something over 6,000 separate criminal, civil, and administrative matters.
And of those, how many actual audio and or video recordings have you analyzed?
Well over 19,000, probably. I haven't checked my stats in the last couple of years, so I might be up to 20,000, but certainly well over 19.
Okay. Now, you have worked on some interesting cases in your career. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Tell us some of those cases that you have been involved in that were particularly, wouldn't like to say difficult, but certainly challenging.
I think a lot of them are that way. I was very involved with both the Kennedy assassination, the recordings, and the attempted assassination of President Reagan. What people don't know, in the Kennedy assassination, there are no recordings of gunshots. Even though people say there aren't. I was involved with running and testifying and all of the Linda Tripp, Monica Lewinsky recordings. We did all the authenticity work for Ken Starr, and I testified for the grand jury in that matter. We were involved in examinations involving the HUD secretary at the time, Henry Cisneros, all of his recordings. Sorry, I'm reading through this. We have a lot of cases. I worked on the Archer Daniel Midland case, which was a huge, at the time, by far the biggest federal antitrust case in the country. I worked on all the video surveillance analysis involving Odin Lloyd, who was the former New England Patriots player. Well, he was the one that was in his murder by Aaron Hernandez was charged, and Doug and I both were involved with that case.
And that was both audio and video?
It was all video.
All video.
And back a ways, I worked on a lot of cases involving organized crime in the Northeast, and some in Miami and New Orleans. I worked on 2 or 3 of the John Gotti cases up there. I was involved with the videotapes involved in the Branch Davidian complex in Waco, Texas. Analyzed all those. I worked on 3 criminal trials for the United Nations Criminal Tribunal in The Hague, and did testify there in one of the cases.
As an expert?
As a what?
As an expert?
Yes, audio expert in that case. I've worked on a number of cases involving U.S. Congress has asked us to work on. One involving video was a bunch of recordings made by President Bill Clinton's staff involving recordings that were not made with the news media. They were recordings the White House made of various meetings the president had, but the news media was not there. And the Congress got them and was interested in what was there in some of them and whether they were been altered or what they were seeing in a particular video. Cases involving Ukrainian President Kuchma, that's K-U-C-H-M-A, involving his contacts with allegedly murdering a reporter. Down in the South a number of years ago in Greensboro, where the Ku Klux Klan, the American Nazi Party, the Communist Workers' Party, and the Socialist Workers' Party, in a death to the Klan demonstrated, started shooting at each other, with a lot of people being killed. And I testified, I think, in 2 or 3 different cases down there in federal court. We worked on, not too long ago, a recording involving the Canadian Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, who I believe is still the Prime Minister of Canada. I'm not sure about that.
And just to close it up, you worked also on the Duke University lacrosse team case?
I sure did, yes.
As well as many others that we have not yet read and won't bore the court with. Okay. Let's talk about your publications, because that is an important aspect that I would like to present to the court. Please tell the court and testify to the court what a publication is and what purpose it serves.
In our field, publications, like most scientific fields, are what we call peer-reviewed. And peer-reviewed means, how certainly my associates and I handle it, is we do research or we write a paper about something. We then send it to people we know are knowledgeable in the field for our own peer review, before we ever submit it to anything. Then it's submitted to a scientific publication, or forensic, some of them call themselves forensic groups. They then do their own peer review, make any comments, and we have to respond to that. If that's all approved, then the paper is published. Once it's published, then not only the people that are in that professional society or whatever, but anybody that thinks there's something wrong with the paper can comment. You know, they can write their own paper, they can do it. So the paper takes on its own life beyond the authors. Basically, once it goes through all the peer review and is accepted, then the two authors could drop dead. The paper's still the same paper. So the papers that my associate and I normally write are either research papers or overviews of certain complex procedures based on a bunch of peer-reviewed papers put together in a way that tells you how the procedure should be done.
How many publications have you had, forensic articles, that have been peer-reviewed?
I think it's over 45 now.
And have you published any books?
Yes, Doug and I co-authored an article on audio and video digital authenticity analysis, rather long chapter, and it was published in the book. Not all books are peer-reviewed, but this one was.
Tell us about your instructions to others in your field of study and profession.
Well, certainly I did a lot of training in the FBI. It was pretty constant. You always, the senior people were training the newer people coming along. And then even once it became an examiner, you had to technically review their papers and their work. So that was a constant in the FBI. And when I retired, of course, I came back to the Bureau.
Tell us about your instructions to others in your field of study and profession.
Well, certainly I did a lot of training in the FBI. It was pretty constant. You always, the senior people were training the newer people coming along. And then even once it became an examiner, you had to technically review their papers and their work. So that was a constant in the FBI. And when I retired, of course, I came back to the Bureau.
Tell us about your instructions to others in your field of study and profession.
Well, certainly I did a lot of training in the FBI. It was pretty constant. You always, the senior people were training the newer people coming along. And then even once it became an examiner, you had to technically review their papers and their work. So that was a constant in the FBI. And when I retired, of course, I came back to the Bureau.
Tell us about your instructions to others in your field of study and profession.
Well, certainly I did a lot of training in the FBI. It was pretty constant. You always, the senior people were training the newer people coming along. And then even once it became an examiner, you had to technically review their papers and their work. So that was a constant in the FBI. And when I retired, of course, I came back to the Bureau.
Tell us about your instructions to others in your field of
It is
study.
the primary organization within the United States.
Now, have you also served as a witness for the government as well as the defense in your line of work?
Yes, even in the FBI where we couldn't do the work directly for the defense, once we did the work, we'd appear for either side free of charge. And during those days, we, contrary to what they do now pretty well, we openly did work for state and local agencies. And we did, when I was there, we did all of the Drug Enforcement Administration work, which is the second biggest.
Now, have
federal
you
law enforcement.
also served as
They
a
didn't really
witness
have
for the
their
government
liability
as well as the defense in
So we
your
did
line?
a large variety, plus, yes, organizations, even in the FBI where we couldn't do the work directly for the defense, once we did the work, we'd appear for either side free of charge. And during those days, we, contrary to what they do now pretty well, we openly did work for state and local agencies. And we did, when I was there, we did all of the Drug Enforcement Administration work, which is the second biggest.
Now, have
federal
you
law enforcement.
also served as
They
a
didn't really
witness
have
for the
their
government
liability
as well as the defense in
So we
your
did
line?
a large variety, plus, yes, organizations, even in the FBI where we couldn't do the work directly for the defense, once we did the work, we'd appear for either side free of charge. And during those days, I have a bunch of them in the CV, but I mean,
Just let's go to some of them so the court can get at least a flavor of those governmental agencies that have that sort of confidence in you.
Okay, I have U.S. Department of Justice, I mentioned that. and the FBI, U.S. Congress, I think I mentioned that, Office of Independent Counsel, ATF, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives now, Drug Enforcement Administration, Security and Exchange Commission, U.S. Department of Defense, U.S. Department of Energy, U.S. Customs Service, Federal Trade Commission, United States Criminal Tribunal, National Academy of Sciences, U.S. Agency for International Development, and then district attorney's offices, public defender's offices, police department, prosecuting attorney's offices, law school, legal clinics, believe it or not, ombudsman, sheriff's department, state attorney generals.
I think you've given us the flavor.
We get work from everybody. Yes.
Now, have you testified in a court as an expert?
Yes, sir.
And could you tell the court on how many occasions you have testified in court and have been qualified and accepted by a court as an expert?
Well, I've testified a total of, today would be the 403rd time. But some of those were depots, some were administrative matters, though most of my time it's not that. So certainly above 350 would actually be in a court with a local, state, or federal judge, or an international judge, believing me as an expert.
Your Honor, we would tender at this point in time Mr. Koenig as an expert in the field of both video and audio analysis. I'm not sure if at this point in time Mr. Martin wants to do some more hour, but it may be the appropriate time if he has any questions.
I would. Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too, sir. Do you have your CV in front of you, sir?
I have Exhibit 28.
Okay. I appreciate you telling me the exhibit number. Is that your CV?
That's my CV.
There you go. Page 3 of 9 of your CV, the work experience that you went over.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what Mr. Escobar has done is he's tended to the court you as an expert in audio and video. Page 3 of 9, and you went through some of these, and I'm going to take them in order, so if you can just follow along with me, I'm going to ask you some questions. And I'm going to not read the whole thing, I'm just going to get you right to the some words that can get you right to the paragraph, but we're going to go in order. The Linda Tripp telephone recordings. Okay? See
Yes,
how I'm going to do it? All right. So in that work experience, that was all audio. They're telephone recordings.
That's correct.
All right. With the Bill Clinton authenticity analysis telephone recordings, that's all audio.
Bill Clinton.
The very next one.
Oh, I see.
See how I'm going?
Oh, it's well, no, it's in. That's the same case with the Linda Tripp.
Oh, I apologize. So it's still audio.
Yeah, the Bill Clinton farther down is actually video.
Okay, well I haven't gotten that far.
You haven't got that far. Right.
All right, so Linda Tripp and Bill Clinton, at this point in time, we're talking about audio.
Correct.
Watergate tapes, audio.
Absolutely.
Gunshot analysis and the assassination of John F. Kennedy, audio.
Audio and video. It's actually film at that point.
All right, and what year was that? I
President-
know I was in the 5th grade.
I was in the 12th.
So,
1963.
all right. So that was a TV film. It was film that has to be developed chemically. We're not talking digital or VHS.
Oh, no, that's what I said. It was film, and it was not TV. It was an individual. Mr. Zapruder
Okay.
did that.
Then we have undercover informants recordings in the Archer Midland case. That's audio.
Yes, I believe there were. I'm trying to remember if there was any videos. I know it was primarily audio, but I believe it was all audio.
I'm just going by what...
Oh, no, I had to think for a minute, but I believe everything there was audio.
All right. Now, the murder of Mr. Lloyd, L-O-Y-D, that's the first time that I see in here where you say the video surveillance analysis. So that was video.
Well, that's video, but you missed the Reagan attempted assassination, and that definitely was video and audio.
Well, see, that then lies a little bit of problem with your CV. You just say enhancement.
Well, you can enhance video.
I know, but when we're talking about your work
Because I'm
experience,
going to object if he's being argumentative with the client, he answered.
may I proceed, Your Honor? Right. In your CV, you did not indicate video or audio. So are you telling me now that when we talk about authenticity and enhancement analysis, I'm sorry, you're talking about Ronald Reagan?
Yes, that's where it says, starts off with the gunshot analysis of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy and the attempted assassination of Ronald W. Reagan.
Correct. And then it goes to the authenticity and enhancement analysis of undercover informants' recordings, and you told me that was audio.
Oh, no, but that's a different case. You have a semicolon there, and then you're talking about the Archer Daniel Midland case.
All right.
So the attempted assassination of Reagan was, yeah, everybody saw the video on TV at the time. It definitely was broadcast video and audio.
All right. Then we have the determination and identification of gunshot sounds on audio and videotapes involving the Branch Davidian complex. And that was gunshot sounds, it was audio.
Yes, the Branch Davidian, well, probably we did more work on the video, but we certainly had audio there too. The question was, where did the fires start? Did the government somehow do something to start the fires? And basically, the FBI had an infrared, far infrared sensor above that clearly showed the fires were started in a number of places within the complex prior to the FBI or anybody else moving toward the complex.
Then after that, we have voice comparison analysis of audio recordings dealing with the tribunal in Yugoslavia. Audio, correct?
They were all audio, correct.
The next one we have is intelligibility determination and transcript preparation. That's all audio.
Yeah, that's in the Sabrina Eisenberg kidnapping case, which is, I believe, a local case here in Tampa.
It's all audio, right?
Yes, I was doing audio work with the wiretaps done by the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department.
And then you were then we have a video authenticity analysis involving U.S. Congress, right?
That's correct.
What did that involve?
That was one I mentioned before where these were videos taken of the president meeting with people that the news media were not there.
All right. And what year was that?
I don't know if I can give you an exact year. It would have been the second term of Bill Clinton as president, whatever that was.
Analog video?
No, digital.
Digital? Then after that, we have the digital audio recordings by the Ukrainian president. That's audio, right?
Ukrainian president is audio.
The next one is an FBI undercover analog and digital recordings. That's audio.
Well, the next one here is talking about, that's involving Richard Scrucci.
Right, that's
Okay.
all audio.
No, actually, the main recording involved was digital audio video, produced by a stringer news group who were being sued.
All right. And what were you asked to do that in that regards regarding the audio?
The federal judge in Philadelphia had ordered the news group that they were not to record Scrucci's grandchildren. Okay. They ended up getting a recording and broadcasting it, clearly showing his grandchildren.
All right, so even though it involved a video, your analysis had to do with the audio and whether or not the grandchildren were on it.
Well, you really don't hear the grandchildren. It's really more of a video thing. And they wanted to, so we had to look at the video, and we did a lot of work there. The audio part, what they wanted to know was, could where they were located, could they have heard the grandchildren? And that's what the federal judge wanted to know. And we were able to figure it out that in fact they could.
Then we have the Ku Klux Klan, we have the analysis of gunshot fires.
And that's both video and audio.
What year was that?
Boy, I want to say late 70s.
That was analog,
Yeah, but pretty well.
1970.
Yeah, I don't think it was professional video. It was news
But it was-
people, but I think it would be analog at that point. Yes.
All right. Then we have the authenticity of the analysis of audio microset recordings by the Canadian Prime Minister. That's all audio.
Yeah, it was just one audio cassette, in fact.
Then we have 35 digital audio recordings in the conspiracy and interception, and that's in the Pellicano case.
Yeah.
That's all audio.
Yeah, the Pelicano case, that's all audio.
All right. Then we have the gunshot examination and the death of Timothy Russell. That's all audio.
Oh, all the recordings were video. But we're mostly interested in the audio, but it's all digital video. That's what it came off of.
I apologize, and that's twice that I've talked over you, so accept my apology. I won't, okay?
Not a problem. I'm doing the same things.
And we're still doing it right now, aren't we?
Yes.
All right, well, let's not do that.
Yeah, this was the case that made high publicity. It was a car that was shot 139 times. I think it was like last year, they tried a police officer on it. And the car was shot, I mean, people died, obviously. And there was video involved with dashboard cams in the police cars. So we used the video, obviously, but the gunshot part of it was obviously audio. But the video helped us tell us things. We needed to know where the car was located. So the video was crucial in telling us where was the microphone at that's recording the gunshots. So we needed that information to be able to do our analysis. So it was both audio and video.
So the video gave you content to establish where the gunshots came from.
It gave us where the microphones were located. I mean, you have two things. Where's the mics? Where's the gunshots occurring? Well, if we know where the mics are, that gives us information that helps us tell us where the gunshots occur.
But as far as working with the video, there was nothing that you had to do with the video content itself, what you see moving. You were more concerned with the audio on the videotape. Your analysis was of the audio.
The gunshot part, as far as the audio, we had to look at that, but we needed the video to tell us where the cars were.
I understand that.
Without that, we would have had trouble doing the exam. So the video became, in fact, it was a big thing of figuring out where was this car parked when these recordings occurred. So it really involved a lot of involvement with the video itself. And that video was digital.
The traffic control recordings, that was all audio?
Yes, audio, air traffic control recordings would be audio.
The Sikorsky helicopter crash, that was audio? System sounds of the Sikorsky helicopter crash review,
Yes,
that was all audio?
yes.
When you were with the FBI beginning in the late 70s, basically your task was in the audio portion of that lab, was it not?
Yes, first off, we weren't getting in the 70s virtually any video at all. So it was really, it was into the 80s before we started really getting much video.
So all your early training was in audio?
That's correct, because like I said, we just didn't have much video.
You went through the clients that since you have left the FBI that you have done work with, and those state agencies and public agencies, the great majority of the work for those people are in the field of audio forensics, is it not?
No, actually, we now have more video work coming in, I believe, than we have audio.
If you go to page 4 of 9 of your CV, I'm going to go through the ones that Mr. Escobar mentioned. Forensic authentication of digital audio. Again, we're talking about you went to a course involving audio, correct? Denver, Colorado?
Judge, I'm going to object that the one that I said was forensic authentication of digital images in Denver, Colorado.
And I'm talking about the one right before,
Well,
which is also Denver, Colorado.
I didn't speak on that one.
The one right before the one Mr. Escobar talked about, all right?
Yes.
Forensic authentication of digital audio, Denver, Colorado. What year was that?
I want to say we went maybe 4 years ago. I don't have an exact off the top of my head date.
The image and video processing using MATLAB. What year was that?
That would be probably when they started really coming out with that, so it was probably a while ago. I'd say more than 10 years ago.
Well, this is 2017, 2007, before or after the Trade Center. Give me something. I mean,
Just off the top of my head, it was when they first came out with it. Certainly the program continues to evolve. So this was when the early days he started coming out with it, and we had an interest in that, and he presented it. So I would guess 10 years ago or so. I can't give you an exact number.
all right, so you went to that one 10 years ago.
Approximately, yes.
All right. And like you say, things evolve, right?
Well, it gives you the basics, and obviously the program becomes more sophisticated.
The imaging process and analysis in Bellingham, Washington, I guess. What year was that?
That's probably at least 10 years ago.
Video analysis system training in Huntsville, Alabama. When was that?
I would say about 10 years ago.
Video capture enhancement and analysis in Indianapolis, Indiana. How long, when was that?
7 or 8 years ago, I'm just guessing.
Back 10 or more years ago at the MATLAB, what was the nonlinear software that was being used 10 years ago?
Oh, there was lots of them. It's not just one. But certainly Adobe Premiere and things like that were being used.
Okay. Any others other than Adobe Premiere that you can think of?
I think there were just so many, and a lot of them obviously didn't make it, so they weren't. If we don't, most of us use one set of programs. I mean, there's lots of good ones out there, but you don't use 5 of them. You use find one you like, and you stay with it.
All right, so you were trained on Adobe Premiere.
We use Premiere, Adobe Premiere more than anything. Yes.
More than anything.
Yes.
And Adobe Photoshop.
Oh, we definitely use Photoshop, yes.
All right. Those are kind of the standard in the industry. Most forensics examiners use those.
Photoshop, yes, I think everybody uses that. The nonlinear audio video editors, there's 3 or 4 or more good ones out there. And it's just whatever the person likes or has a preference or you got trained on. They're all good. They all can do the work.
They all can do the work. It's just your preference.
Yep.
Okay. The Professional Association, the Acoustical Society of America. And I'm going to use the term as a vanity society, and that would be, in my terms, one that you pay your dues and you get the magazine and you get to read stuff, as opposed to one that you're invited to, maybe even have to take a test or have to have some type of review by the members and you're invited to belong to. See the difference?
Acoustical Society is probably the most prestigious audio society there is.
It may be.
It's
How
all
did you get to be a
PhD
member?
types, a lot of PhDs in there.
How did you get to be a member? Did you just pay your dues or did?
Oh, you have to apply. Two
Okay.
members have to do it. Almost all the professional societies are that way.
All right, well, that's what I'm getting at.
Yep.
The Audio Engineering Society,
Need references to get in.
International Association of Identification,
Yes, you need, again, have references.
all right, well, to be a member of Rotary, you have to have references, but you're a member and you pay your dues, so just having references. So do you have to have a test? Do you have to have specific years? What is it that gets you in other than just paying your dues?
I don't know any professional society that you give a test to get in.
I'm just asking.
Well, they look at your education and experience. Like the Audio Engineering Society, if I remember right, if you had not have at least 5 years professional experience, you couldn't be a full member. You'd have to be a lower level position.
And do you have to do anything in those memberships in order to maintain the membership after you're in other than pay the dues?
Yeah, I mean, it's meant for the professionals in the field to get together and look at and publish papers and have conferences.
Networking.
Well, we don't look at that. We don't get work out of these professional societies. So it's
Well,
not-
networking in that you get to know other people, so if you got a problem, I can call Bill and maybe he knows it. That kind of networking, so you have.
Absolutely, yeah, I mean, it's there. They have standards for getting in, some, like the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, which is the next one down, they're probably the toughest. You know, even with my education, they said, well, you really aren't an electrical engineer. So they had to make a decision if I met standards to get in, and I did, but in other words, they will restrict membership. You know, if you're a lawyer and you want to join the IEEE, you might be able to join it, but you wouldn't be a member. You'd be a lower level thing. And some of the societies have lawyers in it because they work in a field, patent field or something, and it's worthwhile to be involved. But the main issue, the main direction of that society is people that are electrical engineers.
Right. For the networking process.
Well, I think it's more than networking. I mean, they all publish great papers and things like that. So sometimes it's learning. You might not be talking to people, but you read the papers. IEEE probably issues, conservatively 100 papers a month. And Acoustical Society is one that does something in that range every month too. So these are big, research-driven professional societies.
And the papers that are published, if you're a member, you can publish in that society, right?
Oh, I publish in societies I'm not even a member of.
Sure.
So you don't have to be a member to publish a paper.
All right, so in these particular societies, it's helpful to be a member, but you don't have to. If you're a member, here's my paper, let's put it in.
Well, you got to go through the whole peer review process. Lots of papers are rejected.
You began the FBI in the late 70s and you left after spending 8 years at the laboratory.
Actually, I started as an FBI agent in 1970. I came into the lab in 1974. And then I
Did I say
retired.
the late 70s? I'm sorry.
Yeah, 74. And then I retired at the end of 1995.
Okay. So from 74 to 95, while you were at the FBI lab, the great bulk of your work was all audio.
Well, I wouldn't put the word all in there. Obviously, more of my work by far was audio. I agree with that statement, but it wasn't all that I did.
In fact, that's kind of your specialty, isn't it? Audio.
Well, again, when I started, video really didn't exist in the forensic world. So it wasn't like there was a choice.
I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do not accept him as an expert as far as video. I don't think a sufficient predicate has been laid under any standard. His whole expertise is audio since 1974, and that's my objection, and then it's your discretion, Judge.
All right, as I indicated about these particular witnesses, I'll reserve, although, well,
Judge, I know you're going to be reserving on the issue of admissibility, but I would ask the court to make a ruling at this point in time concerning your finding of him being an expert in audio and video analysis, especially since he's been qualified over 360 times by courts throughout the nation.
Well, you know, there was never any indication what he was qualified in. And so to say he's been an expert 360 times just doesn't get it. And the court's well aware, if we were in front of the jury, we wouldn't be doing this. We would just be moving on. And that's what I'm suggesting to the court. I don't think there has to be a finding by the court, you are an expert. And that's not what we would do in front of the jury.
and that's absolutely correct. I know you both have been around a long time, but we no longer do that in front of a jury. I'll either accept him to testify about what he's testifying about or not if we were in front of a jury. Quite frankly, you know, I indicated I'd reserve as to admissibility on any of the, was this one that was challenged?
Your Honor, this one was not one that was challenged.
I would hope not. This one, well, he can testify.
Thank you. Mr. Koenig, when were you retained to do work on this case?
In late June of 2014,
And who were you retained by?
your office.
Now, what were you asked to do in this particular case?
I think to look at the video to see if we could enhance it. That was involved to run tests at the theater, see if we could identify certain light events that were there, be able to slow down or speed up the video, pull off individual images or frames as part of the video.
What's that called?
What is what called?
Individual frames.
It's called a frame.
Is there a word called a bitmap?
Oh, bitmap is a file. So we pull the image off, you have to save it in some file. Bitmap is one of those formats. It's bitmap. Or you could save it as JPEG. Now that compresses it, so we don't use that. But you could make it, there's other ones, TIFF, T-I-F-F, that are uncompressed. So it's just a way of making a copy of it into a file.
Now, this was surveillance footage that we had asked you to look at, correct?
Correct.
And this was surveillance footage from the cop theater here in this county.
That's correct.
Now, tell the court how a surveillance system works.
Okay. Most surveillance systems are relatively pretty basic. You have a camera, which has a sensor. And the sensor is, we call it a mosaic. It has little areas that determine how much light, how light it is, and what the color is in this thing. So, most standard definition, not high definition cameras, have 640 crossed by 480 pixels. Okay? That doesn't mean they're going to use all those pixels, but that's how much usually the camera captures. Okay. So the camera captures it. It goes back, cabled back to usually we call them a digital video recorder, DVR, like Might have at home to record television program. Okay, same thing. Got a hard drive in it, do it. So the cameras feed into this, and they're recorded, and they add whatever system's recording it. They record it and make a file. And that file is on a hard drive. It's almost always in what we call a proprietary format. In other words, we just took the raw image, a raw file, and put it in a standard computer, media, info, nothing will play it. So you usually have to have a player, or you have to use the program to convert it to something that will play. The other thing that's common, which is certainly in this one, it's affected by motion sensors. So in other words, if the prosecution's sitting there and they don't move very much at all, and a video camera with a motion sensor is on there, it may not record anything, it just stops recording. They do that to save space. Okay. The other thing they do, next thing they do is, even though we've got this 640 by 480, which is like what old television used to be, okay? They decide, that takes up a lot of space, so why don't we use just 1/4 of it? So in this case, for instance, it's 320 by 240, which further lowers the quality. And to make it even worse, they compress it. And compression means they throw away information that they have that affects details. So things that don't have, that white wall wouldn't be affected much, but your name here on the front would be. So they throw away. So you end up with this thing that anytime there's not much motion, it stops recording. It threw away 3/4 of the data that came from the camera. And then it further compressed it to make it smaller so they could put more information on the hard drive, which further reduced the quality. So most surveillance systems, this one's pretty common. That's kind of the procedure.
Tell the court why it is that these systems want to put more in the system.
Well, I think it's just a matter that until recent times where, you know, you can buy a 4 terabyte hard drive for $100 now or something, hard drive space was expensive. And a lot of the companies, first off, they put the system in and it's been in there for 6 years or 7 years or whatever. So it's old technology hard drive. So it used to be expensive. But we found that even the newer systems, they tend to still do that because they say, oh, we can store 5 months of data. Where, you know, if they need to do that, that's fine, but they lower the quality to have that happen. So that's the big problem with surveillance videos.
Now, it records during motion activation.
Correct.
Is there some sort of sensor that determines how much motion is needed in order for the recording to take place?
It depends on the system itself. In other words, you have a view here. If the sensor can be set to just look at certain areas, or it can be made to look at the whole screen, so you often have that option. And sometimes they do have controls that allow you how sensitive it is. Most of them don't want to set it too sensitive, because then, you know, dust in the room or something will start, or the air conditioner starts running, you know. And even though there's nobody there, it starts running. So they usually set it at some middle level, but it depends on the system. You'd have to be there. If you have the system that was recorded at the time, have that, you could take that then and look at how they've set the settings, and it would tell you all those things.
Now, how do we tell, when we're looking back at this video that this system has made, how do we tell what's being recorded in real time and what's not being recorded in real time?
I guess I don't understand your question.
Well, when you're looking at the video, is there something within the system that will tell you when that video was actually recording?
Oh, yes. In other words, this system, like a lot of them, embeds the time. So we can, each video is a set of separate images, approximately about 30 usually, if in full speed, 30 pictures per second. It looks at it and puts a time date on each one of those images. And you can make it so even though it reduces the quality of the video to do it, you can actually put it on within the image itself. The program will do that. At a loss of quality doing that, that's the problem there, but it'll actually put it on there. So, yeah, you can tell. So if you go along and it says it's 8:31 and 0 seconds, and the next one is 8:35 and 0 seconds, it meant it didn't record for 4 minutes.
Do any of these systems duplicate images in the process?
Oh, the original system does not, usually. In other words, it would be a waste of time if you're trying to save space to record something that you're going to throw away. So basically, the systems, if you pull it out, depending on the system, it'll say, oh, there's nothing there for 4 minutes. It just takes the last image and just continues that until you get a new image. Even though nothing's happening, nothing's recorded, it just stabilizes.
So that only happens when you are, and correct me if I'm wrong, I may not use the right technical term, whenever you're extracting that video from the DVR, from the hard drives, to another process. Is that correct? That duplication.
Oh, yes. For them to add that, it's got to make a new file, which hopefully is a file you can play on a regular computer. That's often what it is. And many of these systems will, in fact, most of them will add that thing that it's not recording, it just stays stable.
So if you're looking at the film once it's been extracted,
It's not a film.
excuse me, digital.
Yes.
Once you've extracted that and you're looking at it on your computer, if you were not careful, you would think that those images that are being duplicated were actual recorded images.
Yeah, especially if you had a fairly static scene and not much was happening.
So what do you have to do in order to be very careful when you're viewing video that's been extracted from the hard drives of the DVR to make sure that that doesn't happen?
Well, you have to make sure you're pulling off unique frames, not duplicate frames. That this is there, and then you have a period, there's nothing there for X amount of time, you can't say anything about it. Nothing was ever recorded. It's not in the system, it's not there.
So at the very least, what you're telling me is that there is a process where you can tell, as an expert, what was being recorded and what are duplicate images.
Usually, I mean, in this case, yes, but some systems are a little more complicated than that.
Now, before I get too far afield, which I normally try not to do, I am going to show you Your Honor, just so that we have some stipulations, and I'm going to be calling out the stipulations as we I just want to make sure I didn't interrupt. Judge, no apologies necessary. I just want to make sure that you finished what you were doing. Exhibit number 38 that we're going to be presenting now to Mr. Koenig is a imaged hard drive that Detective Aaron Smith from the Pasco County Sheriff's Office imaged from the original Cobb Theater hard drives. He gave this particular exhibit to our office, and we in turn turned it over to Mr. Koenig. We have stipulated to that in a written document that this court has signed. I just wanted to preface that so that the court knew what we were doing. Now, Mr. Koenig, can I approach?
You may.
Mr. Koenig, I'm going to show you what's been marked as defense exhibit number 38. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And ask you if you recognize that particular exhibit.
Yes, this is a Seagate 2 terabyte expansion desktop drive, hard drive.
And from whom did you receive that?
Your office.
Okay. And was that told to you as being the hard drive that Detective Aaron Smith had imaged or cloned, whatever word is best suited for that, from the original Cobb Theater hard drives that he had obtained?
That's our understanding, yes.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Mr. Koenig, I'm going to show you what's been marked as defense exhibit number 15. And Your Honor, just so that the court knows, this is going to be the process for the next few exhibits. So,
Okay.
do you recognize exhibit number 15?
This is a copy made in our lab of exhibit 38.
So is that a correct, true copy of exhibit number 38 that you all made? You imaged, cloned exhibit 38 to be exhibit 15?
Correct.
Your Honor, we would, at this point in time, move exhibit number 15 into evidence. It's been stipulated to by the government, and I can approach the clerk, and I'm handing the clerk exhibit number 15, defense exhibit number 15.
Okay, it's now going to be numbered number 8. As I indicated, they come in, they're numbered sequentially as they come in. So that will be entered exhibit number 8.
And Your Honor, so I can get this out of the way, I might as well do it now.
Counsel, we have another request for copies of exhibits being entered into evidence. My response is going to be that it can be made, requests for copies can be made to the attorney who has that ability, and it's not going to interrupt our proceedings here today. Fair enough?
Your Honor, exhibit number 39, again, has been stipulated to between the government and the defense. Exhibit number 39, it is a clone image of the Cop Theater hard drives that my expert, Adam Sharp from eHounds, did in 2015. I'm going to now tender that to you if I can approach the witness.
You may.
Mr. Koenig, can you look at exhibit number 39 and tell me if you recognize that particular exhibit?
I do.
And what is that an exhibit of?
This is a Seagate 4 terabyte backup plus hard drive that we received from a company called capital E dash capital H and then Hounds, O-U-N-D-S, data recovery out of Clearwater, Florida, on August 25th of 2015.
And were you told that that was the hard drive that Mr. Sharp had actually copied from the original Cop Theater hard drives?
That was our understanding, yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm going to show you now what's been marked as defense exhibit number 23 and ask you to take a look at exhibit number 23 and see if you recognize that exhibit.
Yes, that's a copy we made of your exhibit number 39 in our lab.
And is that a true and correct copy, clone, image of exhibit number 39?
Yeah, it's a forensic clone or image.
Your Honor, we at this point in time would move, and it's been stipulated to between the government and the defense, we would move into evidence exhibit number 23, defense exhibit number 23.
Which will now be 9. Wait a minute.
Now, I want to take you through the process of what you did with reference to exhibit number 23. Let me have that, and I guess it's exhibit 9 that's been admitted into evidence. If I can just hand, and I will make sure that it is 9. I'm going to give that back to you as admitted exhibit number 9. Did you work off the original cloned hard drive that Mr. Sharp had done for us in 2015, or did you work off exhibit number 9 that has now been introduced into evidence?
We started working on the Exhibit 8 that we received, and we told your office we really want an exact copy of the original, hard drive from theaters, the hard drives, plural. So we started working on number 8, but then once we got number 9, we stopped doing anything with 8 and only used 9.
Let's talk a little bit about 8, if I can, if I may approach the clerk again. In looking at exhibit number 8, which is the copy of the hard drive that Detective Aaron Smith had copied for the defense, why was it that we wanted to get our own hard drive clone done in this manner?
Well, because it's actually a re-encoded copy. It's not the original.
And so explain to the court what that means by a re-encoded copy, not the original.
As I mentioned before, they use these specialized programs in there. So to be able to play it back,
Are those the proprietary
the proprietary.
that are in the DVR itself?
Correct. You can't just play them on a regular computer. So I don't think the detective was wrong at all in making a copy that was playable. However, from a forensic perspective of getting the best quality, getting all the data correct, we need to go back to look at the original. The detective, the police department would just not have that capability. If they had it, they wouldn't really be able to do anything with it. So we needed that to do our analysis of that original, and there are differences between 8 and 9. You want me to?
I want you to tell the court what those differences were that caused us to go out there and now retain Mr. Sharp and have a cloned image of the Cobb Theater hard drives.
Right. Let me explain what a re-encoding means. It means that basically it keeps the general same format, but it can change things and make it so it works in a regular system. That's what happened here. And so they kind of kept it in the same format, but by doing that, it meant you re-encoded it, which meant you compressed it again. Every time you compress it, you lower the quality. If you took a JPEG image out of a camera and made another JPEG, you're going to lower the quality. It's just how it works. So 9 is of slightly better quality, even though they aren't very good quality, than 8. So right off the bat, that's a difference right there.
Okay.
It's a little better quality.
What other differences?
Okay. The times, like I told you, are embedded within we call the metadata of the file. It says, okay, here's the video information, and here's the time and date that matches that particular frame or image in the video. Okay? We discovered that when you make this conversion, the program changes the time slightly. Not a lot. It's like probably around 20 thousandths of a second, but to us, we see it. I mean, I don't think it's critical in this case particularly, but it changes it. It does it. Third, it puts a time code right in the image itself. We don't really like that because what if there's something in that part of the image you want to see? Yeah, so we really don't like it to be in there if we have a choice. The other problem that counsel mentioned is that it adds duplicate frames. So in other words, if there's an area where it's not recording, it just takes the last picture, it just keeps that picture there until it records another picture. So they're the 4 main things. There's some other minor changes, but they're the 4 things that change by going that process.
Okay. And so we got you a Virgin hard drive for you to work on, and you made a copy of that particular hard drive, Q6, just so that the court knows a lot of these are going to be in Q form. So that particular exhibit now that we are working off of is Q6.
Correct.
And so Did you work off that particular exhibit when you were doing your work? That it means the exact clone copy, or did you work still on the original hard drive that was provided to you by Adam Sharp and eHounds?
I don't think we worked on the original at all. I mean, once you make an exact copy and prove it's an exact copy, what difference does it make?
Okay.
But we probably leave not, we usually just don't touch the original then. We make our copy and we work off of it. That's where we go.
And so that would be the exhibit that is in front of you, Q6?
Correct.
Okay. Now, Your Honor, can we approach?
Yes, do we need to?
It's just that this is probably a very good time to break if we're going to break for lunch, because we're going to be getting into, you know, some of the video production that would rather not break it.
Any objection to that? Seems like an appropriate time if we are going to get into the video without further ado.
There's going to be
We don't have to redo
there's going to
all.
be some testimony, but we're getting very close.
All right, but we don't have to go through all the identification all over again, right?
Right.
All right, then how long does council wish for a lunch?
Judge, if we could have an hour, hour and 15 minutes.
All right, that'd put us, say 1:15, you want to come back?
Judge, and another request, Mr. Reeves obviously is here. He has to have some lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Is it appropriate, with the court's approval, for him to be able to go to lunch with his family if necessary?
Certainly.
Okay. I know that his wife is here. He will not have conversations about what's happening in here with his wife.
Correct.
Is there any prohibitions for him having lunch with his wife?
No, just, you know, obviously don't discuss what's going on in the courtroom, just as you wouldn't with any other witness. She is a witness supposed to testify today, correct? All right, that's the only prohibition. Obviously, I'm sure you've got her depo, so a little safeguard there, but I have no qualms otherwise.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be in recess till 1:15.